What's happening, everybody? This is Jake the Snake with Social Game Reviews. Big day is finally here, our first review for Social Game Reviews. Today we are taking a trip inside the winter screening room and we will be reacting to Inside Out 2. One of the most eagerly awaited films of the year. I was very excited for it when it was announced because the first Inside Out is one of my favorite Pixar films, so let's dive in. Come join me in the winter screening room for Inside Out 2. I gotta be honest, I was not sure how well this would follow the original Inside Out, but I gotta tell you, it is such an admirable job. This is a really, really well put together, well animated film, absolutely worthy of the Pixar and Disney names. We kind of pick up after, I think, 2 or 2.5 years after the end of the first Inside Out, and Riley is going through some changes because she is now a teenager. She's got the braces, she's got the teenage angst happening because she's about to enter high school. The problem is her two best friends, Grace and Bree, are not going to high school with her, and she now all of a sudden is very nervous as the three of them go to hockey camp together. Hockey camp is where the bulk of the movie takes place. Meanwhile, inside of Riley's mind, everything is still pretty chill and calm over at headquarters. It kind of has the same energy of how Inside Out originally ended, with sadness now coexisting harmoniously with everybody else, joy, anger, fear, disgust. As Riley is now a teenager, we deal with the subject of puberty, and with the subject of puberty comes this puberty alarm on the console, and Joy and the others are just really freaked out. When they hit buttons on the console, Riley has these insane overreactions to just trivial things that her mother is telling her when they talk. In come the movers, and with them are these new emotions, which are anxiety, embarrassment, ennui, and envy. Like a new team of emotions comes in to try to bring a sense of balance, I guess, to Riley's sense of self. So anxiety comes in and she and Joy just clash, obviously because they're polar different personalities, and they have radically different approaches to hockey camp for Riley. Joy really wants Riley to have fun with her friends because she's not going to be able to see them for a while, whereas anxiety puts a lot of pressure on Riley because she wants Riley to get a spot on the team. So it's kind of having fun with your friends against being on the team and being regarded as a really good player. Anxiety reasons that Joy and her pals are a problem, so through one way or another, she manages to get them all out of headquarters, and so it just leaves herself, envy, ennui, and embarrassment to really run things while Riley navigates hockey camp. You can kind of pretty much tell what's going to happen from here, but you'd be surprised what we're exactly in for with this film. Joy and the others are in like the real back machinations of Riley's mind, and they're scrambling trying to get back to headquarters. They are not having very much success out of the gate. They come across other core memories from Riley's younger years, including this video game character called Lance Slashblade, who I think is a parody of a Final Fantasy character that Disgust is just enamored with, which I think is one of the funnier parts of the movie. And then you also get Pouchy and Bloofy, who are these two childhood cartoons that Riley really loved as a kid. Joy and the others end up kind of using them as resources to try to get back to the headquarters, but really a bulk of the movie is this journey for them trying to get back to headquarters. Meanwhile, in headquarters, anxiety is trying to mold Riley into this mega great hockey star, so she'll really be respected by the actual high school students and the coach, so she'll make a really good impression and get a spot on the team. So anxiety reasons that Riley's sense of self needs to change. They try to change a lot of the core memories that formed Riley's original sense of self, And Anxiety has these worst case scenarios drawn up to try to change Riley's sense of self in an attempt to produce the desired results, whereas making Riley a nervous wreck, so she tries her hardest to be the best and get a spot on this team. Somehow or another, Sadness actually finds her way back to headquarters and tries to wrestle the console out of Anxiety, Envy, and Unleashed control. Embarrassment is also there, but for reasons we don't exactly know, he actually helps Sadness at a very critical point because Anxiety is trying to convince Riley by controlling the console that she needs to steal this document that the coach has that has names of players that she would like on her hockey team and players that need work. And Anxiety is convincing Riley that she needs to look at it so that way she knows where she stands. Whereas Sadness is trying to convince Anxiety by taking control of the console that she is doing the wrong thing and that she should just play fair and have fun. But then Anxiety figures out what's going on, takes the console back, and Riley finds out that her name is on a list of troublemakers. And this forms a bad thought in Riley's mind. And when the new sense of self is formed, Riley thinks to herself, I'm not good enough. Joy and the other emotions are still on the run to get back to headquarters, and somewhere along the journey, Anger starts poking at Joy and just telling her, like, this is so overdone, we're in over our heads here. And then Joy finally snaps and she tells Anger, Disgust, and Fear that she is so overwhelmed with being the positive one and being the leader of all these events that happen in Riley's mind, and that they will never understand the pressure she is under to be positive all the time and to keep a level head on things. So Anxiety is now trying to get Riley a spot on the team by doing something no rising freshman has ever done, which is score 3 goals in the scrimmage game against the current roster of players. The downside is now Anxiety is stressing out big time because of the negative response, I'm not good enough, that Riley's new sense of self produced. Although Riley manages to score 2 goals, she ends up injuring her friend in the process, and the coach sends her to the penalty box. And then a massive panic attack occurs. It is every bit as insane and intense as you might expect. Joy and the others finally make it back to headquarters as this panic attack is happening. The way it's animated in headquarters as Anxiety is in almost like a tornado or cyclone or something, it's pretty insane to look at. Like, it's honestly very, very well animated, and I think it really illustrates what a panic attack would look like inside the mind very well. So the other emotions all band together and they try to take apart the old sense of self, and Anxiety is still a mess, and Joy comes up and tries to reason with her. Anxiety sheds this tear, and I think so many people in the audience felt that as Anxiety started to cry. Anxiety then talks to Joy, and she comes to this realization that she did indeed go too far and that she pushed Riley beyond her limits and that she can't determine who Riley is. And then Joy has a kind of aha moment where she realizes that she's been controlling Riley kind of in the same way. Not quite as malicious, but Riley's thought process is kind of one-sided to a degree, and Joy now realizes that all of the emotions need to work together to form Riley's new sense of self. The other emotions all work together and they manage to take apart the sense of self that Anxiety created. A new one comes in and they all kind of embrace it. What happens next is honestly really beautiful. Riley is able to calm down because there's finally balance in her mind, that she has this new sense of self as she comes into adolescence, and everything is finally in line. The panic attack stops, Riley catches her breath, everything starts getting back to normal. Riley ultimately reconciles with her friends and with the fellow players, and then the movie ends with us fast forwarding to Riley actually now in high school. She's tried out for the hockey team. She's still in touch with Grace and Bree, even though they're in another school. Then she goes to the coach's office where they have the postings on who made the team. Riley looks at it, and we don't know if she actually made the team. All we see is the lowering of the paper, and then Riley smiles. So it's kind of ambiguous, but we're led to believe that Riley did make the team as the emotions coexist and cohabitate within a new and improved headquarters. And that ends the movie. So I've mentioned it a couple times in this video. The animation in this is really superb. Really lives up to the great potential of the original Inside Out. Something else I noticed in retrospect looking at Inside Out 2. The two films do look really similar, but one thing I love is that even though they kind of look the same, they're two totally different movies. You get two really different stories, but they're both really good stories. These characters are very interesting to me. I love their looks. I love the voice acting is superb. Shout out to Phyllis Smith, by the way, for coming out of retirement to voice Sadness again. That was really, really cool for her to do that. For the fans, I'm sure she did that for the fans, but we love her for it. We appreciate her for it. Amy Poehler, of course, is just awesome as Joy. I love Maya Hawke's voice as Anxiety, and I think the character is just super relatable to so many people. I would tell parents, if they have children ages 12 and up, to actually watch Inside Out 2 with them, because anxiety is such a common discussion for so many people these days, especially with, mental health awareness. I feel like this could lead to some great conversations and great talking points for families, looking at anxiety's character and how anxiety can be troublesome in the mind. Not inherently evil, but still dangerous when it's in control. So I feel like there's a lot to take away for families from this film, and that's why I think it's really good. If you haven't figured it out right now, I do recommend Inside Out 2 very highly. And on the critics scale, I give it a perfect 4 out of 4 stars. It is really a well-made film. I think it'll go down as a classic, not just for Pixar, but for Disney as a whole. And maybe Disney should look at Inside Out 2 a little bit, because as a lot of you know, it has produced a very high box office return. It's actually now the highest grossing Pixar movie ever to be released. Maybe Disney should look at this and say, hey, maybe what we were doing before, maybe it worked well enough like that. Maybe we should keep things as they are. It's a straight up movie, and it's a really good movie. Maybe Disney should look at this and say, hey, maybe we should just let our movies be movies, not let them be new history lessons or wake-up calls or anything like that. Maybe we should just leave our movies alone, because when we do, they, no pun intended, they can be pretty magical. So I'll tell you guys out of the gate, something I'm going to do differently is that I'm going to tell you where you can find these films. I noticed something on YouTube, a lot of movie reviewers, they don't do that. They don't tell you where to find the good films, or the really good films for that matter, so that's where I'm going to differ. Inside Out 2, I know for sure, is going to have a full theatrical release. I read this interview from Pete Docter, who directed the first Inside Out. He's also an executive producer for Inside Out 2, and he confirmed that the movie would in fact have a 100-day theatrical run. It is still playing in theaters as we speak. We anticipate that it'll be on Disney Plus near the end of September, maybe early October. So be on the lookout for it on Disney Plus. It's going to be quite a treat for families everywhere. I recommend it very highly again. It is such a fun film. It's a very fine film. And one of the few animated films I've seen that I genuinely can't find anything wrong with. It was an absolute pleasure being a spectator in theaters, getting to see it in 3D. If you can see it in 3D, it is a lot of fun to watch in 3D. It just looks absolutely amazing. Well, that's it for this edition of Winter Screening Room. Thank you guys so much for watching and for being a part of this new journey of mine. We will have plenty of other movies to cover. Like I said, the first episode of the Loser Screening Room will be coming up soon. And then, before we know it, we'll be back in the Winter Screening Room with more great films. You can follow me here, subscribe to Social Game Reviews. You can follow me on Instagram at JakeTheSnakeOfficial. There will be, hopefully, more regular updates going forward for film reviews. But I am excited for this, and I'm excited for you to be a part of this journey with me. I will see you next time, everybody. Peace.